Welcome back to Time Tested Mastery Life Lesson Sell. Today I want to do something a little different. Over the last several episodes, I've had conversations with some strong guests who came at real estate, sales, leadership, and personal performance from different angles. On the surface, the conversations may have sounded different. One was about listening and lifestyle-based real estate. One was about security, fraud, and client protection. One was about performance, execution, emotional control, and business planning. But underneath all three conversations was the same message. If you are a real estate agent today, you cannot build a lasting business on pressure, personality, scripts, lead sources, or market timing alone. You have to build it on trust. And trust does not happen because you say, "Trust me." Trust happens when the client feels safe enough to tell you the truth. That is the heart of the trust to truth method. Truth follows trust. When people do not trust you, they perform. They withhold. They test you. They give vague answers. They tell you what they think you want to hear. They avoid the embarrassing truth. They avoid the financial truth. They avoid the emotional truth. They avoid the real reason they are moving or not moving. But when they feel safe, understood, protected, and not pressured, they start telling you what is really going on. That is where the real work begins. And that also connects to the second principle I've been teaching more and more. Control before confidence. Self-control. Confidence does not come first. Self-control comes first. Control of your preparation, control of your standards, control of your language, control of your emotional response, control of your processes, control of your follow-up, control of your ability to slow down and actually listen. When you control the things you can control, confidence begins to grow. So today I want to pull together the best ideas from the three recent conversations and apply them directly to real estate agents. So let's start with Realtor Kim Costa. Kim's message was powerful because she reminded us that good real estate is not really about bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, and price range. Those things matter, of course, but they are not enough. Kim talked about her wheelhouse method, which is really about helping clients understand whether a home supports the life they actually want to live. And that is a much deeper conversation. Most agents ask surface questions. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms do you need? What price range? What area are you looking? And when do you want to move? Those questions are necessary, of course, but they are not discovery. They are data collection. Discovery is different. Discovery asks, what is not working in your current living situation? What do you want life to feel like in your next home? What part of your daily routine feels frustrating? Where do you feel squeezed, tired, disconnected, or limited in your home? What would make your family function better? What would make your work life easier? What would make this move worth making? That is where Kim's approach supports the trust to truth method. She's not pushing people toward a house. She is helping them understand themselves. And that is a shift every agent needs to make. Stop trying to sell the house before you understand the human being behind the sale. Kim shared a great example of showing property where she noticed the husband pull back at the more expensive home. He got quiet. A lot of agents would have jumped in. What's wrong? They would have started selling. They would have tried to overcome the silence. They would have asked, what do you think? You liked it, didn't you? They would have pushed. But Kim did the opposite. She waited. She let them tell the truth when they were ready. That is maturity in sales. Silence is not always a problem to solve. Sometimes silence is where the truth is forming. Real estate agents need to understand this. The client's hesitation is not always rejection. Sometimes it is fear. Sometimes it is budget. Sometimes it is a spouse dynamic. And sometimes it is embarrassment. Sometimes it's a conflict between what they want and what they can really afford. If you push too soon, you may get an answer, but it will not be the truth. That is why emotional safety matters. When a buyer says, I need to think about it, the weak agent hears rejection. The skilled agent hears, there may be something we have not uncovered yet. That's the trust the truth method. The agent's job is not to force the next step. The agent's job is to create enough safety and clarity that the next step becomes honest. The practical lesson from Kim is this. Listen long enough to hear what the client is not saying. So now let's move to Robert Siciliano. Robert's conversation brought in a side of trust that too many agents overlook, which is client safety. Not just emotional safety, but physical safety, digital safety, financial safety, identity safety, procedural safety. In real estate, trust is not soft. Trust is not just being nice. Trust is not just being likable. Trust means the client knows you have a process that protects them. Robert talked about human beings naturally want to trust. That is one of the reasons fraud works. We want to believe the email is real. We want to believe the phone call is legitimate. We want to believe the seller is who they say they are. We want to believe the wiring instructions are valid. We want to believe urgency means importance. But Robert made a critical point. Manufactured urgency is one of the tools bad actors use. And that matters in real estate because urgency is everywhere. I need to sell fast. I'm traveling. I can't get on a call right now. Just send me the wire. Hey, click this link. Sign this before it expires. We have to do this right now. Sometimes urgency is real, but sometimes urgency is manipulation. And agents and clients need to be strong enough, trained enough, and calm enough to slow down the process. That is control before confidence. A confident agent does not say, I am sure it is fine. A controlled agent says, we verify before we act. A confident agent does not let a client wire funds because an email looks familiar. A controlled agent says, call a known number, verify directly, do not rely on the link, a forwarded email, or a last-minute change. A confident agent does not assume a vacant land seller is legitimate because the opportunity looks so profitable. A controlled agent does the due diligence before the dollar signs take over. This is where Robert's message supports the trust the truth method. Clients will tell the truth when they feel safe. But modern safety includes more than how we talk to them. It includes how we protect them. If a client feels embarrassed because they clicked a bad link, they may hide it. If a client feels confused about wire instructions, they may guess. If a client feels rushed, they may make a mistake. And if a client feels like they should already know the answer, they may just stay silent. So the agent's job is to create a communication environment where the client can say, hey, I'm confused. This email looks strange to me. I clicked something maybe I shouldn't have clicked. I don't understand this wiring process. I feel pressured. I need help slowing this down. We need to provide that trust. And let me be blunt, protecting the client is not separate from serving the client. It is part of the job. The practical lesson from Robert is this: make verification part of your trust building process before there is a crisis. And finally, let's now talk about Dr. Philip Neri. Al's conversation went right to the heart of execution. A lot of agents love business planning season. They love the whiteboard. They love the annual goal. They love the big number. They love saying, hey, this is going to be my year. But business plans do not usually fail because the math was wrong. They fail because the agent did not build the habits, the standards, the emotional regulation, and daily execution required to carry the plan through real life. Al made a point that real estate agents need to hear. Sometimes the plan is too far out. 5 years out may be too far. 1 year may be too far. 90 days may be too far. For some agents, the real question is, what does today need to look like? That is not small thinking, that is controlled and focused thinking. If your business is struggling, if your pipeline is weak, if your confidence is low, and if your emotions are running the show, do not start by fantasizing about the perfect year. Start by asking what conversation needs to happen today? What follow-up needs to happen today? What appointment needs to be set today? What skill needs to be practiced today? What fear do I need to face today? What standard do I need to keep today? And that is the control we need that builds confidence. Al also talked about pivoting. That is a critical skill in this market. A business plan that only works when everything goes right is not a business plan at all. It is a wish. Markets change, rates change, buyers hesitate, sellers overprice, deals fall apart. Closings get delayed, inventory shifts, and your personal life interrupts your professional life. The question is not whether things will go wrong, because they will. The question is whether you have enough control to adjust without collapsing emotionally. That is why Al's comments on emotional regulation matter so much. He talked about the need to acknowledge the emotional reaction, not pretend that you are a robot. A bad deal hurts. A lost listing hurts. A client ghosting you hurts. A slow month hurts. And watching other agents post success stories online when you are struggling can mess with your head. But you cannot live there. You acknowledge the emotion, you clear your head, then you choose the next tactic. That is the difference between an amateur and a professional. The amateur has a bad day and disappears for a week. The professional has a bad day, regroups, and makes the next call. The amateur compares themselves to social media. The professional measures today's execution against today's standards. The amateur waits to feel confident. The professional acts with control until confidence returns. That is the heart of control before confidence. And this also connects directly back to trusted truth. Clients do not trust the agent who panics. They do not trust the agent who performs. They do not trust the agent who pressures, disappears, blames the market, or gets emotionally sloppy when the transaction gets difficult. They trust the steady professional. They trust the one who can say, here's what happened. Here's what it means. Here are our options. Here is what I recommend. Here is the next right step. That kind of communication is not accidental. It comes from preparation and control. So when I put these three conversations together, here is what I'm hearing. Kim reminds us that clients need to be understood before they can be led. Robert reminds us that clients need to be protected before they can fully trust us. Al reminds us that agents need to control themselves before they can lead anyone else. And that is the full picture. Trusted truth is not just a communication strategy, it is a professional standard. Control before confidence is not just a mindset phrase, it is a daily operating system. For the real estate agent listening right now, ask yourself these three questions. First, am I creating enough emotional safety for my clients to tell me the truth, the whole truth? Not just the polite answer, not just the surface answer, but the real answer. Second, am I protecting my clients with a clear process, giving them certainty, or am I assuming everything will just be fine? Because assumption is not leadership. Third, am I controlling my daily standards, or am I waiting for confidence, motivation, or the market to rescue me? Because the market is not coming to save you, a lead source is not going to come and save you, and a script by itself is not coming to save you. A better interest rate is not coming to save you. What will change your business is your ability to create trust, uncover truth, communicate clearly, protect people, and execute the right habits every day, whether you feel like it or not. That's mastery. Not hype, not manipulation, not pressure, but mastery. So here is the practical challenge for this week. in your next buyer or seller conversation, slow down. Ask one better question. Listen longer than feels comfortable. Do not rush to close. Do not rush to impress. Do not rush to solve. Listen, and listen for the truth behind the answer. Then before your next transaction moves forward, look at your protection process. Are wire instructions verified? Are identity red flags addressed? Are your clients educated before pressure shows up? Do they know they can tell you if something feels wrong? And finally, look at your own standards. What is the one thing you need to control today? No, not next year, not someday, but today. One conversation, one follow-up, one skill, one decision, one disciplined action. Because confidence is not something you're going to wait for. Confidence is something you earn. Trust is not something you demand. Trust is something you build. And truth is not something you can force. Truth is something people give you when they feel safe enough to tell you. Hey, thanks for listening to Time Tested Mastery again, Life Lesson Self. If this episode helped you, share it with a real estate agent, broker, team leader, or another sales professional who needs to stop chasing confidence and start building self-control. So until next time, keep building mastery one honest conversation and one disciplined decision at a time.